Hey guys, Nick from Evolve Skateboards here again. Today we're going to be showing you how to replace one of the motors on your GT board in case you have had an issue with it and we've diagnosed it as being a motor fault. For this exercise we're going to be presuming that the left motor on this board has a fault and we need to replace it. We're going to need the following Evolve tools. So you're going to want your Evolve T-tool and the associated Allen keys that come with it. Alternatively, you can use drills with the same bits. So we have a 1/2 inch socket for the wheel nuts, a 2.5mm Allen key bit for the drill, and a 1/8 Allen key bit. So the first step is to remove the battery case with the screws going through the deck. Now we have the battery case off, we can see the motor controller, the motor wires at the back and the battery. The first thing we need to do is isolate the motor controller from the mains power. So this dark red connector here is the mains power to the battery. That simply pulls apart like that. It will be firm, but it will just pull apart. The next thing we need to do is cut the hot glue where the motor wires come through the back of the board. We have already done this on this one for this exercise, but you will need to do it with a Stanley knife, making sure the blade is facing upwards so it is not going to cut the wires. You simply slide it underneath the hot glue and run it along. This will then peel the hot glue open and free up the wires through the hole. Okay, the next step is to disconnect the motor that we're going to be replacing. In this case it is motor 2, the left motor. So we can disconnect the main power connector first for it, and then we can disconnect the hall sensor connector. As previously mentioned for other videos, we can use a little Allen key from the toolkit to release a clip underneath the hall connector. Being very careful to make sure it is released before trying to pull it from the motor controller, as it does have that clip underneath it. Once these are out, we can tilt the board on its side and pull the wiring through the board, being careful, and it should come through. The next step would be to remove the base weight bolt nuts so that we can pull the wiring through the retainers. To do this you will need your T-tool and an Allen key that comes on top of it. Using the Allen piece here to secure the head of the base weight bolt and the long end of the T-tool on the nut. Turning it anti-clockwise will loosen off the nut to the point where you can undo it by hand and remove it. This will then open up the retainer and the wire comes out. Do the same again on the rear retainer. There we go. The wire is now free from the board and is only attached to the motor directly. Next step is to turn the board over so that we have access to the motor mount bolts and the wheel. From here we need to remove the wheel itself. Using your little Allen key again, remove the belt cover screws. With the belt cover off, we can now remove the drive gear and the drive belt, putting off to the side, and this gives us access to the 4 motor mount bolts through the motor plate. Using your Allen key from your toolkit once again, we can undo these Allen keys. With the 4 bolts out, the motor is then loose. So with your old motor already removed, we can now install the new replacement motor. The replacement and the installation is simply in the reverse order of how you removed it. Finally, Don't forget to plug in the main power connector. Also, we do recommend getting a hot glue gun and reapplying hot glue around the wires coming through the deck. This will maintain a sealed deck and reducing the amount of moisture and dirt being able to enter the deck.